So, Katy, you have 60 to 90 seconds in an elevator. How would you describe yourself to someone?
Well, I'm married and we have 3 kids, a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And we live on an acreage outside the city,
Nice.
which we love. We love living in the country, spending lots of time outside with the kids, exploring nature. I also love creating and doing creative things like art and sewing and music and things like that as well.
Oh, wow. Like, do you write music, play music? What do you do?
Well, I used to play the violin for many
Okay.
years as a child and a young adult, and now I kind of dabble more in like guitar and ukulele and
Oh,
things
wow.
like that.
Do you sing as well?
A little bit. Yeah.
Nice.
What's your favorite art piece that you've created, either musically or like, do you paint?
I do at times, yeah. I like to do painting or like coloring, things like that with journaling. It's kind of a way that I process through things and and I just express myself in a different way.
Interesting. Have you found your artistic bent has helped you process struggles in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think it gives me an outlet, and especially because I'm not a huge talker, and so it gives me that space to, work through things in a different way, and I don't have to rely on having a conversation with someone, or even finding the right person to talk to about something. I can just, I can work through some things on my own in a creative space or creating something.
That's really cool.
I'm just curious, like, did you learn that yourself? Like, did you feel kind of forced to learn that yourself, or have you gone for art therapy? Like,
I did
an art therapist?
I did do a little bit of training in art therapy. I did kind of a workshop. It was actually involving like art and spirituality in counseling and kind of bringing those two together. That was sort of early in my career, I guess. And I've taken a few little workshops here and there of how to kind of incorporate creative elements in therapy, but also in my own life and in my own self-care and things like that.
Nice. It's beautiful if we have things in our lives like that just seem like part of our life and who we are. That also helps for self-care and for processing the hard things that we go through.
Yeah, for sure.
So what was your childhood like? How would you describe it?
I had a very happy childhood. We were a very close-knit family. It was my parents and just one older sister. And we were all very, very close growing up. We had a lot of fond memories together, lots of, family trips and road trips and things like that. So, overall, I would say it was a very happy, happy childhood.
What led you into counseling?
A combination of things. I think I was always the type of person growing up where in relationships people would sort of be the ones to open up to me, and I was always more of a listener than a talker, and was very empathetic, and so counseling felt like a natural fit for me in that sense. But it also it wasn't super obvious to me when I was younger. It took a long time for me to kind of get to that point of realizing like, oh, this might be something that I should pursue and see how it feels to do it. So.
So what did that transition to actually like, okay, this is something that I want to try? Like there's so many different options out there. There's so many different ways to care about people. Yeah. Right. Why this one?
Well, I guess it kind of started for me. I was volunteering with my youth group in my church, and I was really finding that I was enjoying kind of one-on-one conversations with the youth, and they were really struggling and they were going through some really tough stuff, and I could listen well and could be there for them, but only to an extent could I really help them. And I kind of felt like, okay, if I I got more training, maybe there would be more I could do to help them. And so that kind of led me on the path of figuring out what that would look like. And counseling came up as an option. And so it seemed like that would be kind of a way that I could work with youth initially. That was kind of what I was most passionate about, and actually being able to not just listen but help and do that kind of effectively.
That's good. Your previous job was at Youth for Christ, is that what you said? Yeah. So youth group, Youth for Christ.
Yeah.
Passion for youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all lines up. And it's funny though, because when I started at Youth for Christ with my internship, and it did seem like a good fit, but it wasn't actually where I wanted to ultimately end up. I kind of wanted to be in more of like a secular environment. But for whatever reason, that's where I ended up. So. Yeah.
Have you mostly worked with youth, or what? Tell me a little bit about what clientele you've mostly worked with.
Yes, largely youth, definitely parents of youth when they're willing, and sometimes parents would seek us out for parenting help, young adults as well, and then youth in a sense is a very wide age range. I would say it's like we would kind of view it as between like 11, 12 to about 21, sort of in that demographic. But I'd also work with people who work with youth. So at Youth for Christ, we have there's a huge staff, volunteer base, people who are on the front lines with youth in the programs. And so I will also meet with them and debrief any situations with them, support them in what they're doing, but also for their own personal counseling as well.
What would be a pivotal moment for you in your upbringing, your childhood, where looking back on it, you see some of the things that you've learned with your counseling, like you kind of see it clearer maybe, right? Because I think sometimes we go through trials in our life and we go through different hardships, and all of a sudden later in life we learn something about, oh wow, that's actually what happened. Oh wow, that's, of course, we had this big argument, or of course we had this because I was thinking that, and my brother was thinking this, and like things like that. So like, are there situations in your life and your upbringing that you feel like looking back, it's like, oh, it kind of, your knowledge helped you see that in a different light?
Yeah, I think so. Like when I was kind of into my like later teenage years, young adult years, I did struggle with like feeling depressed and had anxiety and things like that. And at the time, it just felt like it was never going to end, right? Like that, like you're kind of like just sort of stuck and not having that direction or even like kind of a hope for the future. And then coming out of that, and then going through the training as a counselor and sitting with other youth who are experiencing something similar to what I was experiencing, it's like this light bulb moment of, that's what it feels like when you're in that moment. You can't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and it feels like it's never going to end, but it is just a season of life, and it will end. And other, there'll be other storms as well, but there is also that hope and that light on the other side. And so I think that I can look back and see that I was struggling at those times, and I was also feeling like this is it, like this is life, like I'm stuck here forever, but it's actually not that way, right? And some of that just comes with time and hindsight and all those things, but definitely through learning more about counseling as well.
So good. What brought you out? You talked about, okay, you were in that season and then you got out, and now you can look back and you can help others. But what were some of the things? Was it internal? Was it external? Was it somebody walking alongside you? What allowed you to go from that place of the storm to out of that season?
Definitely my faith is a big thing that helped me through that time. I had, I grew up in a Christian home, and faith was very foundational in my growing up years. And I think having that, even though I questioned God and what is going on here? What is my purpose? It was still something that I had to fall back on. And I still think even within that storm, I still had faith. Even at times it felt weak, or I felt weak, but I had that faith to kind of get me through, and definitely people in my life as well. My parents have always been super supportive and loving and there for me. And, I mentioned involvement in my youth group and church community and things like that. And I've always had people around me that I could, go to and would encourage me and lift me up. And, again, I think that's another thing that's pointed me towards counseling, is that we all need that at some point in our lives. And it's very sad when people don't have that in their inner circle, but also they can seek that out elsewhere. And seeing a therapist, someone who they're an outsider to your life, but they can actually journey with you through those times as well. And I experienced that as well. I saw a counselor, and even my medical doctor, which I think is not the common experience, but I had a medical doctor who was just kind of went above and beyond and was really there for me during those difficult times. So I think that's kind of what got me through.
Sorry, can I just jump in? So when you see clients coming in, probably young people or young adults struggling with depression and anxiety, where do you tend to go? What does counseling look like with you if we're coming in? And I know anxiety, maybe you want to just take a few moments to actually explain the difference between depression and anxiety. Okay. And maybe even kind of what would that look like if I'm coming in with depression. Yeah. It's fascinating actually how different they are, right? So if I'm coming in with the symptoms of depression, or I'm coming in with the symptoms of anxiety. Yeah. Do you mind kind of giving us a bit of an approach of what that would look like if I came in to see you with one of those?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of questions there.
I know, it's a little bit too much. Let's just start, and I'll come back to the other parts.
Sure. I mean, I think that depression and anxiety can be very much related and can exist at the same time. Some people experience more depression, some experience more anxiety. Depression is, it's something that is really, the symptoms are kind of more on the lower end, right? Like depression, it does already kind of tells you that, things are going to be kind of maybe darker, or thoughts are darker, mood is darker, but there can be, some of those ups and downs. Anxiety, you might see more like agitation and that kind of thing, but not always, right? That's a hard question to answer because it does present very differently in different people. And and then how I would work with people experiencing that, again, it really depends on the person and what they're presenting. But I never shy away from just sitting in those feelings with them, because it's very important to obviously validate the feelings and normalize that it's okay to be there and to be feeling what you're feeling. And because I think lots of times people, especially people who aren't trained to deal with this kind of stuff, really just want to pull people out of it, right? And just say let's be happy, let's find something that'll make you feel good, and that's not bad. And that's not bad in of itself, but it's not always the most helpful, because you're actually could be invalidating their feelings. And so spending time really talking about those feelings, feeling those feelings, being present with those feelings and making space for it. It can be very transformative, can actually transform those feelings, right? Like actually putting the light on those feelings can actually decrease them in a sense.
So it doesn't make it worse.
It doesn't
Like,
make
I
it worse.
think that
Yeah.
feeling
That
is
is
like,
the
if I
fear.
go there with someone,
Right.
I'm just making it worse.
Yeah.
It can be, there is that fear,
Yeah,
right?
that's the fear,
and even
right?
for someone experiencing depression or anxiety, they might be afraid that if they really let themselves feel it, you know, am I going to be able to ever get myself back out, right? And I think that's a myth, at least in my experience, that it's, you know, and definitely to do it with a trained professional is the best, I think, because then you're not in it alone, and it feels less scary, and you have that safe space to do it.
For someone, like, I think sometimes you can go there with somebody in a way. So this is the struggle, that sometimes there's this tension. You want to go there with somebody, want to validate their feelings, but there would be a group of people that would be like, well, I don't want them to wallow in it. Don't want them to like, yeah, woe is you, you can't do anything. Let's just sit here and be sad together.
Right.
But that's not, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not what you're saying.
No.
So what does validating mean versus maybe like more victim hood mentality, for lack of a better word? Like, how do you wrestle with that? How can somebody, when they're validating someone's feeling, not get to that point, like fully embrace and accept the feelings, but still empower that individual to act?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it can be a bit of a fine line in figuring that out with someone. But I think if someone really feels like they've been given the space to feel how they feel, you know, be validated in that these feelings are real, they exist, you know, they are allowed to be there. I think it really does open the door for then moving towards, okay, so now what do we do about these feelings, and are there things that we can do to just open the door a little bit and move towards helping and digging ourselves out of this pit, or pulling ourselves out of this pit.
I'm wondering, I'm just thinking about it now as we talk about it, I'm wondering if people tend to almost sit with that victim mentality when their feelings are not heard.
Yeah.
Like they almost, I think there'd be a tendency to kind of sit with this because nobody is really hearing what I'm trying to say. And maybe I don't even know how to really say it. And so I just sit here kind of in this no man's land a little bit, because nobody has really been willing to go down into this experience with me.
Yeah, I wonder that as well.
So you talked about your experience in youth group, you listening to people, but you realized there was a limit. You also mentioned, you know, some people don't have that community to have somebody listen to them. Where's the role in counseling versus just having a really good friend? Like, when would you recommend going to counseling versus, like, if you have a really good community that can take care, or that can help you in a lot of scenarios, how does someone know, okay, you know what, I actually need to go more to the professional help than just my community, or those types of things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that you know, counselors are trained kind of on how to you know, handle that information, to be able to, because I think the average person, you know, they can listen well and potentially help and provide resources and things like that. But over time, it can really impact a person to hear difficult stories and difficult things. And it impacts therapists too. Like, we're human for sure. But when it feels like, you know, this is too much, or if the person who's struggling doesn't want to burden, you know, their friend or their pastor or their parent or whoever they're speaking with, I think that's a good indication of, like, okay, maybe I should talk to someone else. And also the helper person, their judgment can be clouded if there is like another relationship there, right? Like if it's a family relationship or a friendship or something like that, or maybe it is a trusted, adult in their life, but maybe they're friends with their parent, or those relationships can kind of make it feel a little bit messy or difficult to really help, or to really kind of step in. And so a therapist is like a third party outsider person who doesn't have any of those connections to necessarily to the family, and can give that new perspective into a situation. And like I said before, I think therapists are just trained, maybe have the resources to hear difficult stories, difficult things that people are going through. And I mean, the onus is still on the therapist to take care of themselves in that, but hopefully they are going to be, doing that work as well on their own. So, yeah.
I just want to jump in a little bit with that. Like, it is actually very difficult to find someone to listen to you. Like, even if you have a community and you have caring people. Yeah. Like, how many times does your friend really listen for more than 5 minutes? Like, or if somebody listens to you for 10 minutes, and actually, like, therapists are also, some of us have that personality, which helps, but also we are trained to actively listen and to pay attention and to restate. And if we do our jobs well, you really feel heard. Right. And that's not an experience, even if you have community. Not all of us, and maybe some of us who are a little quieter and not quite so talkative, maybe need that in a more particular way than maybe some people in the community. Even if you have a community, it doesn't mean that people are doing a really good job of listening to you. It's harder work than it may seem or sound.
Yeah. And if it's a relationship, if it's like a reciprocal relationship, is it really ever, you just sharing your stuff with someone? Right. Because if it's reciprocal, they're sharing with you as well, and you're having to also care for them. And so you're playing two roles in that.
And you would also say that someone's listening to you for an extended period of time. You mentioned how long does your friend actually listen to you? Sure. If it's a reciprocal relationship, then an hour is going to be, at least half an hour is not going to be on you, right? But in a therapy session or in a counseling session, you could do an hour of dedicated time with someone actually listening to you.
True.
You mentioned, Katy, that you said something like you're not much of a talker, but then you also said that you have gone to counseling yourself. What does that counseling look like for someone who's not much of a talker? Because, some people, I'm also not much of a talker, contrary to what we're doing here. And it's like, I don't want to go to counseling. It's like, I don't want to talk for an hour. Like, that's not going to help me. Some people, it does help. I know people like that. But I might not be one of those people, and I'm skeptical. So, like, what does therapy look like for someone who's like, I don't really feel like talking for the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I was always pleasantly surprised that I actually could, talk for more than I thought I could. So I think it's always good to sort of push yourself, even if you think that like, I don't need an hour to talk. It's, sometimes when you're given that space, it's that some things do come out and need to come out. Or, we're going to talk about EMDR therapy, and that's a therapy that doesn't involve a lot of talking. And so I've done EMDR therapy myself, and so it's kind of refreshing in a sense of it's not a lot of talking. You can combine talk therapy with it. But that can be an option for people who aren't big talkers. And then I've also, I'll do a lot of art with clients who come and, just don't want to talk, or, especially with younger kids whose parents are maybe making them come, pushing them in the door, and, it's okay, let's just do some drawing, or just, there's other ways to interact with a client that is not just talking.
So what would you say to someone who is hesitant to come in? like I think we're saying a few of those things, but if someone's hesitant to come in, they feel like they need counseling, but it's like, I don't know if I want to do some of these things, what would you say to that person?
I would say it's worth a try. There's nothing to lose in coming for a counseling session. If your therapist is good, they're not going to pressure you to do, or say anything you don't want to do or say. It can be very, just very simple, first session. It doesn't have to be anything deep. I think, and there's always options to, potentially do like a phone call conversation first with a therapist, just to sort of, have some initial contact to see if like, okay, does this feel, how does this feel? What are my options? What is this therapist like? That kind of thing.
So you talked about EMDR, which is, a lot of letters jammed together.
Yes,
and there's going to be a group of people that don't know what EMDR is. There's going to be a group of people that kind of know what EMDR is and are either interested in it or are like, that's kind of odd. And then there's going to be the people group that, it's helped me, or I know somebody's helped, and it's kind of fully bought in. So let's try to work through this list a little bit. So EMDR, what does that even stand for?
It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is an even bigger mouthful than just saying EMDR, which is why we say EMDR. Yeah.
Nice. So what eye movement? Why are we doing eye movement? What kind of movement are the eyes doing?
Yeah, so eye movements is referring to bilateral eye movements, so back and forth eye movements, or any kind of bilateral stimulation. So
bilateral, like two sides.
Two sides, back and forth.
Yeah.
So it could be like tapping.
Oh yeah.
Back and forth on your body. It could be wearing a headphone that has a tone that goes back and forth. The traditional way, or the most common way that we do bilateral stimulation is with eye movements. So it's following the therapist's hand back and forth, kind of like that.
It's not necessarily a pencil. Somehow in my mind, I had this vision of a pencil going back and forth.
Pencil.
Okay, but it's not necessarily.
They just use your fingers.
Okay.
With kids, you can use like a puppet or a toy, anything that someone can track sort of back and forth. I also have, they're just like little buzzers. So it's kind of like it gives a vibration in one and then in the other one, back and forth. So if you're the type of person that wants to kind of like close their eyes and focus, that's kind of a nice option as well.
That sounds very odd
it
for
is.
Counseling, and like almost like voodoo. You're like putting me in a trance type of thing. What's going on with that? Like, why, to the best of your ability and your knowledge, like what are we doing when we have this bilateral stimulation?
So we're rewiring the brain, basically. So we know that our brains are very malleable, and there's lots of change that can happen in our brains. But when we experience, especially when we experience trauma or things that are difficult from the past, our brain can kind of get stuck in a certain way of thinking or feeling, and then that develops, symptoms like PTSD or depression or things like that. And they found that doing this bilateral stimulation while bringing up like an image or a memory from the past that's still distressing you today, and that has sort of like a negative belief about yourself or negative sort of cognition that you're believing about yourself, and doing the bilateral movements actually reprocesses that traumatic incident or memory or experience, and yeah, it's on a neurological level, which is kind of a mystery to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think there's still, like, for as much as we know about the brain, there's still so much we don't know about the brain.
Right.
But they have found that this works.
Yeah.
And
So we're kind of trying to have more accessibility between the left brain and the right brain?
mm-hmm.
Is that
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, like I had described, or the analogy that I'll use to explain it sometimes is, like when you are sleeping, when you experience REM sleep, deep sleep, your eyes actually go back and forth, and that is your brain processing through, the things that have happened in the past day or two. And that's what our brain is naturally supposed to do, right? With little things that happen throughout the day that bother us, or are just kind of annoyances, we get over them because we don't get stuck in them. Our brain can kind of move forward and process it. But bigger things like traumas, we get stuck there, and our brain can't reprocess it or can't process through it in the moment or as we sleep. And so EMDR almost mimics that REM sleep, but you are awake and fully aware of what's happening and in the present moment, and reprocessing those things.
Can you talk a little bit about why this might be less re-traumatizing? Like, to me, that seems to be one of the biggest advantages of EMDR, because if I'll just say, like, I do more talk therapy, and the healing process has to do with kind of feeling this bad situation, but not re-traumatizing the client, and in the context of safety. But it's always a fine line with not re-traumatizing someone if we're going back into these painful stories. And I think EMDR seems like a great solution for those situations.
Yes, for sure. That is the great thing about EMDR, is that you don't have to, verbalize every little detail of the memory or recount even the entire memory. Or even if you are lacking memories about an incident that happened, maybe something happened, but you don't actually have a memory about it or any memory about it. EMDR can help with that. But definitely in the moment, the focus isn't on reliving those memories or recounting them in detail. You're sort of asking for just sort of a snapshot of that incident to kind of focus on. And we use a lot of distancing techniques in order to keep it at a safe distance and to keep you in the present moment and not like taking you back there to that traumatizing event.
Why would not taking someone back to that traumatizing event be beneficial?
And it definitely depends on the person. Like, some people really feel like they want to,
almost need to, right? Like,
want to or need to, recount it all, have their story heard, do that work, and that can be a part of EMDR too, if that's important to someone. But for a lot of situations, it's a safety issue, and I think you mentioned that too. Is that it can be too much to handle. It doesn't feel safe to go there. Maybe it's just they can't go there. It's just hard to go there, or it would bring up too many symptoms of PTSD or flashbacks or things like that. And then there's like that concern of when they leave your office, are they going to be safe, with themselves? And so that becomes more of a concern. If that is more of a concern, then EMDR can be a good option.
How would you, for someone, Kate, I want to go to counseling, how would someone know, should I pursue something like EMDR versus something more standard, CBT, more talk therapy, some of those types of things? Like, how can someone who's wanting help on something they're dealing with can discern where they should look?
It depends what they are, what they're needing help with, right? What is the issue? And kind of, I think personality plays into it too, and like what is a good fit for you. If you find a therapist that you like, it's, you know, that's something that you can figure out together, right? You can sit down and discuss options. But I get it if you're like, well, this therapist does EMDR and this therapist does CBT, and this therapist, so like, who do I pick? Because I don't know what I want to do. And, so I think, if you can be clear about, you know, this is what I need help with, and can kind of know yourself enough to know what kinds of things have helped you in the past, or, you know, those kinds of reflecting can be helpful in determining what would be a good, at least, starting point. I mean, you can always pivot and change things.
So you wouldn't say that it's like, okay, if you're dealing with some specific trauma or like symptoms, okay, EMDR, but other than that, go, you know, like relational talk therapy. You wouldn't say that. It's more go try and be willing to pivot if it's just not working. Is that what you would say? Yeah.
And I would say most therapists do utilize different modalities, you know, different therapies. And so, and because we do want to, you know, work with whatever the client is bringing and whoever the client is, and what sort of fits with them and what their needs are. So looking for a therapist that can do that is probably the best.
Yeah, and it might be nice just to explain to someone who's not familiar with EMDR that of the different modalities, EMDR is more specifically, like, it's a unique thing that you train for more specifically than, let's say, I'm IFS informed, like internal family systems informed. I'm CBT informed. I'm emotionally focused informed, but I'm not trained in EMDR. And so, you know, I can do some cross, you know, bilateral tapping, you know, maybe bring tiny bits of it into my sessions, but I will not really be able to give you an EMDR experience. So if you're really interested in having that experience, you need to go to someone who is trained in EMDR.
Yes, you want to find someone who has had the EMDR basic training.
I'm also, maybe you're getting to that, but I'm curious, what would the experience, I've never gone for EMDR counseling myself. What would it be like for a client to come in and maybe they've done some talk therapy or some other kinds of therapy in the past? How different would this be? What would the experience be for the client?
Yeah, it's so there's like an 8-phase protocol that we follow, and the different phases cover things like kind of assessment, preparation, actually reprocessing, looking at the future, and things like that. So there is sort of a little bit more structure to it, and each phase can take different amount of times depending on the client. So some clients, you may spend a lot of time preparing them for the actual reprocessing because you want to make sure they're in a stable place, that they have good resources in place, that the safety is there and they're ready to kind of do that processing piece. And then others, you can kind of move into the reprocessing a little bit quicker because
the reprocessing is this eye movement.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And and then, like I said, EMDR can you can combine it with other things as well, like talk therapy, if that's still important to verbalize and process things verbally. That can still be a part of it. Even
and art therapy too. You could combine art therapy,
even art and play, and
that's very cool.
How have you done that in the past? Have you combined some art therapy and EMDR? Like, how is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, definitely for the preparation kind of phases in terms of building sort of resilience and resources within a client. You can do that through art and using art as sort of a resource for them to have an outlet and to process things. And then there's different like more specific art exercises that you can do with the reprocessing phase of EMDR. So.
Wow.
Interesting. One thing that goes through my mind is I'm very cognitive, so I think a lot, and some of these types of things where it's just you just like watch your finger go back and forth. It's just like I would just be thinking in my brain, like, is it working? Is it not working? Is it working? Am I going to start crying now all of a sudden? Like, what's going to happen? Would that play a factor in this? Like if all of a sudden I'm just overthinking when I'm doing this, like what kind of brain space do I need to be in, or like for this to actually process memories?
We would say that is a part of it.
Okay.
That is your brain processing things. And, if that's what's coming up, if it's like, this is weird, if that's what's coming up, then we just go with that. And then we keep doing it. And, I think that's also part of that, like, validation of like, that's normal. Like, cause this doesn't feel normal, and it feels very like out of the box. It's never something we haven't done before. So you're going to have those thoughts, and it might be hard to feel. You might feel like you have to like overly focus on things, and you don't. Your brain does the work for you, which is also a nice thing about EMDR. So you can show up just as you are. Yeah. And I was going to say something else, but now I forget. But yeah.
What does a session look like? Like if someone was going, ooh, this is kind of sounding interesting. I want maybe they have some trauma in their past. They don't really want to verbally talk about, but they also know they need help because they know that it's affecting them, or there's something going on with them, but they don't know what it is. But they're a little bit apprehensive of coming into this because it still sounds a little. What does a session look like? Like a general session, what can people expect when they do this? So
like I said before, there's some assessment kind of part of it, to just kind of questions and figuring out if is this a good fit, what it will look like, that kind of thing. And then there's some preparation in terms of building in resources and making sure the client is resilient enough to revisit some trauma and even just tolerate some difficult emotion that will come up, and have some tools to manage those emotions as they come. So I would say that is still EMDR, even if that's as far as you get, and even if you don't actually even get to the reprocessing stage of therapy, you're still kind of that's a big part of EMDR. And then there's the reprocessing, and obviously this doesn't all happen in one session. This could happen over several sessions. It can, like I said, it can be shorter or longer depending on the client. And then but I think most people are wondering, like, well, what does a reprocessing session look like? And that's with like doing the eye movements, or if it's like that bilateral stimulation, whatever that is. And basically what we do is we develop sort of something that we're going to target, and that's the the event or memory or whatever the issue is, and then we also want to determine what is the negative thought that you have about yourself that's connected to that memory. So when you're thinking about that memory,
like what are some examples of like what kind of trauma could lead to what kind of negative thoughts about yourself?
So let's say maybe your parent hit you as a child.
Okay.
There was like physical abuse. And then I would ask the client, so right now when you think about that, what negative thought do you have about yourself? And they might say, oh, I'm not good enough. That might be the thought. Or I am worthless, or I'm not safe, or those kinds of things. And so, because generally it's something
you're trying to make sense of it, right? The child tried to make sense of this thing that shouldn't have happened. Like intuitively as a child, this should not be happening, that my parent is hitting me.
Right.
So there has to be a story, right? And that's
and so it's not just that you're stuck on the memory of it, but you're stuck on how it made you feel and how you now see yourself. And likely you've been carrying that your entire if you're an adult, your entire childhood and into your adulthood, and you still feel that way in a lot of different contexts of your life, you probably feel like I am not good enough, right? Because of what happened in the past. And so that is really what we're targeting and trying to change, so that you feel differently in the present moment. And when you think about the past, it doesn't have that negative impact in the present moment.
Right, like the present moment could be in your relationships, in your marriage, at work, or whatever. Somebody could have some sort of movement or comment, and you're instantly back to that belief, right?
Right. And it's not going to take away the memory or even the negativity of it, right? Like, it was bad and it didn't feel good, and that shouldn't have happened. We just don't want it affecting you today, right? And in your present experiences, in your present relationships.
So, I had a fantastic question, and it just slipped my mind right as we were about to talk. So we'll see if I can link it back. But yes, okay. So memory. So we have the two things you're talking about. So what happened, and then what that tells you about yourself. What are you saying about yourself? So it is what I'm hearing, that processing or internalizing a memory, like actually processing it and getting it. There's a different term for that I think you encapsulate that better, but I can't think of it. But actually being able to process a memory involves not only processing what happened to you, but what that memory did to your own identity, if that makes sense. Or like, is that where we get hung up? It's not so much, I had something bad happen to me. It's more, I had something bad happen to me, and I am struggling to understand what that means about me.
Yes.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, because some people who experience a trauma, and maybe it's not seen as such a bad trauma, or, maybe, and every person's different, right, in terms of how they internalize something that happens. But for one person, they may have gotten abused as a child, physical abuse, and maybe they had people in their life that helped them through that, help them understand right away that it's like, this was not your fault. You are a valuable person, and and so it didn't become the type of trauma that actually got stuck in their system, that maybe that person was able to actually process it and move forward. And it's not something that's causing them, distress today. But then other people, because of whatever the circumstances are, they internalized, these beliefs about themselves, these negative beliefs about themselves, and it's stuck with them, until today. So it's very much how you internalize or not internalize, what happened to you, not necessarily the incident itself or the experience itself.
Yeah, I want to pause there and try to get a little bit practical. How can someone get better, or can someone get better at not internalizing it? In the sense of, like, when something, can we build up resilience in ourselves? Is there things that we can do to build up resilience in ourselves so that we have the capacity to go into hard situations, or have hard situations happen to us where they do not affect us like that, where we're now questioning our identity, we're questioning, what is that memory, what does that situation tell about me? Like, is there ways that we as non-trained people can build up our resilience in that way?
Yes, I would say absolutely. We can build resilience within ourselves to, as a preventative kind of measure, and that can look lots of different ways. But I also don't want to, because sometimes if you're thinking that, like, if I was only strong enough, right? Or, if I could have just been better. And then that can really backfire, right? And so I would also be really careful in not, because things happen, and sometimes we internalize things and sometimes we don't, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Right? It's not because you didn't build enough resilience within yourself, or it's not, sometimes things just happen. And so I think, that's great to think that way, and to try to be resilient and build resources and supports and all those things in your life, because that's going to help you no matter what.
Yeah.
But when trials do come, or situations that are completely out of your control happen, or it's okay to struggle and to even internalize some negative thoughts about yourself, and there's no shame there.
That's a good reminder.
We are getting close to the end here. We've asked a number of questions, but we probably missed a few. What would be something that you feel like we haven't asked you that you would actually want to say?
Good question. I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, I think we did cover quite a bit. I don't know. Is there anything that you...
Do you have favorite client, portfolio, age that you love to work with?
A variety is always nice.
Okay.
Because it's just, it kind of keeps you on your toes and keeps things interesting. But I do love working with that sort of preteen age, young teenagers is always kind of fun, which I think sometimes they can be very challenging too. But I think that is kind of fun. And definitely I've been drawn more towards working with parents, since I've become a parent, and moms in particular.
We didn't touch on that. You've talked to me about that. Tell us a little bit more about that you would enjoy working with moms and perinatal care.
Yeah, that's
kind of a little bit of another whole nother area. Would you mind if we just talk about it for a minute or two?
So I haven't had any formal training in maternal mental health or perinatal mental health, but it's just become more of an interest for me, and just something I'm more drawn to in working with, especially new moms, and kind of offering that support and understanding. And it's definitely something that I'm interested in. I want to pursue some more training in that, because I think it is a very it's very needed. There's a lot of parents out there struggling, and I think this in our world today, we're saturated with so much parenting information, social media, everything, and it's overwhelming, right? And it can be helpful, but it can also be really hurtful, and it's hard to know what do you take and what do you not take, and so I think that there's definitely a need for mental health support for new parents and women who are pregnant and all those kinds of that season of life.
And it's very cool. I do know that clients resonate with the idea that their therapist has had some experience in that area, even if it's not necessary, but you are a mom.
Yes.
You have 3 children, right? If we circle back to the beginning, you are a mom of 3 children. You've been pregnant 3 times. I'm kind of assuming, but yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's a lived experience. So you are bringing that lived experience of being a mom of young children and recently being pregnant, and
yeah, for sure.
I think that's a big gift to the client.
It is.
Yeah.
Going back to not being alone.
That's right.
In a situation. Fantastic. So what we like to do here at the end of every one of our conversations is try to get as practical as we can, as simple as we can for those listening. So we've talked about some processing of memories. That's probably been one of the main ones. A little bit of EMDR. What does that look like? What would be one practical takeaway that you would tell someone who's struggling to process a memory of something? What would be one thing they can do today, now, to just one step forward to process that memory a little bit better?
I wouldn't. My advice would be not to try to process that on your own. It would be to seek, professional help. But one thing that you can do on your own is take care of yourself, and be try to be connected with what's going on inside of you. Don't just shut things off and kind of put it away, but be curious about what's going on inside. So, doing a simple deep breathing exercise every day, and just kind of having that time to ask yourself, like, how am I really doing? What's going on inside of me? And kind of having that awareness, I think, can be helpful. And just checking in with yourself rather than just, pushing forward and forgetting about yourself, which we often do. Yeah. And then I would also say 2 other things that could be really helpful is experiencing awe. So often we can experience awe in like nature, sometimes like just in like, the face of your child or things like that, right? We see it. That just kind of gives us an experience that's like outside of ourselves, right? Like it's good to be to think about ourselves and be aware of what's going on inside, but also that experience of awe can be, it just is very just taking us outside of ourselves. We need that as well. And then another one I would say is practicing gratitude, because there's always something to be thankful for, even if it really doesn't seem like it. It can be really difficult sometimes, and I'm not minimizing that at all. But the more that you do it, the more there will be things that that you realize that you can be thankful for, and that shifts something in the brain as well. Practicing gratitude.
So what everybody needs to do is what we call CAG. Curious, awe, and gratitude. Oh. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking KEG, but
yeah, I don't know. But how would you say that? Is there a better way to say that?
No, CAG.
CAG. Curious, awe, gratitude.
Yeah.
Love it.
Sums it up.
Thank you, Katy.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
Thank you.